Hi there traders, sorry I'm a bit late on today. Just get myself organised with a couple of computers, so hope we're doing well. Hope we had a good weekend and we're already raring for a new week. See how it all plays out this week. Been a bit of up and down on the ASX. We see that it's actually opened up today, up 15. It hasn't done too much. I think it's touched down to break even again and popped back up, so I think it's floundering between a bit of support and a bit of resistance. So we'll have a bit of a chat about that in a minute. Might just have a quick look at where the other indices are and what's going on over there. What else we got? For anyone that's new, I'll just go through the usual motions. We've got the top left-hand corner, we've got TradeSetup, that's on Twitter. Was it at @trade_setup? Top right-hand corner, you'll see the Facebook page, so join us there and subscribe to us on the bottom right at YouTube. So every time we do go live, and whether it be through the app, through our TradeSetup app, or just in general, we're doing a bit of a presentation. If you subscribe to YouTube, you'll get an alert straight up. Or if you've got your push notifications set through YouTube on your phone, you should get something that pops up straight away. So also, as note, we don't give specific advice or personal advice. It's just general advice. So that's your warning, straight bang in the middle there, for you to read through at your own leisure. Anyway, how are we all doing anyway? We've got some positions running. We're all doing okay in the markets. We've got a few banging around. So I'll get across to the computer now. I'll put my pretty little face on and see if you enjoy that. Minimize that. Alright, so we can see what's going on there. Market's up 23, so it's just lifted a bit in the last few minutes, probably last 20 minutes or so. Picking up a bit. What we'll do, obviously go through the usual. Bud. Sorry, that's just something I noticed I've been looking at. And it's that one. Look at that go. That's gone quite nicely. Look at that near vertical move there, so that's going to get a bit long in the tooth soon. BUD. What we'll go over is just go over the usual, go over a bit of the market, bit what's playing out in the ASX. We'll just recap that a bit, because I think we're at a sort of that important time. You know, the bulls and the bears, a bit of a battle happening, as my son would say. The battle's playing out. So between the bulls and the bears, it really does look like it could pop up, and it also has got the ability just to roll over. So it's holding a bit of a support zone with some minor lower highs in there, just blowing out, washing out sort of either side at the moment. So like I said, I'm biased up, obviously. I think it's been settling here for quite a while, and with the rest of the markets going up, we just seem to be looking for excuses to roll over. But if it keeps holding up here and the US keeps making these highs, everyone's expecting it to roll over. It could just get a bit of a squeeze play on the upside if we build up a few shorts anyway. But we'll see what happens there. We'll go over that. And what I want to go over is just a couple that we've got on, rather than talk about, well, we'll go over what we've got also and how they're playing out. I've just got a couple on the boil too that I've got on the watch list here. You'll see. And just what sort of the plan of attack is on those. I have only made a list of 3 at the moment. There's probably quite a few. We'll just go through those. So feel free to ask any questions. And what we might just do is flick over a couple of the currencies. I'll just have to get those up on another system though, but we might just take a bit of a poke around on those just for something different. All right, any questions before we kick off? Is there anything in specific that you'd want to look at before we get into it? I'll have my coffee. And I remember, Paul, you sent an email, so if you're there, I just got to remember what was on. A bit of banter between me and Paul. I just got to remember. Here we go. So what was it? XRO. Let's just have a look. Oh. Paul, you're going to be nervous now, mate, if you're listening. There, I just want to... Actually, I'll just talk about this one too. On XRO, actually, why I think that's looking good. Actually, I'm going to talk about that. I'll make sure I talk. This is one where Paul and I were having a chat about. I'm sort of biased up because of this daily structure, and the weekly is actually looking really nice as well. And this is one of those trades, you know, it holds highs. Everyone expects a deeper correction, but You go down to off the weekly, maybe a pullback to say 20, 21, that zone, but it's just not happening. It's really holding those highs. So that will, if that gets a bit of a push up and a bit of a kick on, that should accelerate through this high, because it's just retested that, eased off that high, but it's still holding high lows on the daily, you can see. So we'll go through that later on. Let's pull. We're a bit of a challenge going between Paul and myself. See who's going to be right and wrong, but we'll see. Alrighty, let's kick it off. Let's just see where the XJO is at the moment. And you can see this recent price action that's just, and like I was just saying, it's sort of stuck between the buyers and sellers. It's a bit of a, let's just really expand on that. I'll get up my drawing tool. What's everyone's view on this, the ASX anyway? We've got some differing opinions. Whether we're going to see a sell-off at a certain time or vice versa, a bit of a buy-up. For me, I don't care either way, to be honest. It's all about trading what you see, to me. So this is the last few months. You see, sort of beginning of June, when we got, this is what we were looking at that stage. The market's pushed down, popped up, pushed down. Your traditional lower highs, lower lows on a trend down. And this is the anchor level we mentioned at that stage when it had a couple of good sessions, broke through there. But then it's been choppy. It hasn't held a decent high low and gone on with it. Every time it gets a bit of a run on, you can see it's had a strong down day. It had another go, another couple of good sell-offs, back down to support, down to sort of that 56.60 zone. Another good run, and this built a lower high, then bang. So the work it took probably a good part of, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sessions. It gave up in about 2. That's never a positive sign. And then we got a big strong session. Again, just made that sort of minor inside lower high. Bang, straight back down to that support down. It took a while to get down, well, just about anyway. 3 days to get down. Another couple of days where it sort of held and then tested back down towards that 56. So it's been testing down sort of 56, 56.70, 56.60, 56.70, that sort of zone a fair bit now. We've got this push up, but it's really just holding that, that ever so slight contraction where it's building those lower highs. Potentially that's just what we got here at 57.90. So, if you're biased, well, how do I say? Like I said, I like to trade from what I see, and at the moment I'm not seeing solid evidence either way, off the charts anyway. And I mean, I don't walk around listening to other people. I try to trade what I see rather than people say, it's going to the moon, it's going to crack 6,000. Who knows? I mean, we never know what it's going to do. So you try to, like I said before, sit on the fence rather than get off the fence. Take a side. You can sit on the fence, that's quiet, and just trade what you see. If you think it's going down, then position yourself, put your plan of attack in place. When I say plan of attack, I would want to see it break through here, and if I'm going to go short, I wouldn't go short off a lower high after a break of those lows. Because if you get a break of that lows, you don't know if it's going to be a washout. It could push down through support, and then it backs up and you get long again, but I want to work off that lower high. In essence, that's the only way I want to attack on the lows, and vice versa for the highs. I'd rather see it hold some high lows in here, push up through 57.90, and then I'd be fairly confident that we're going to start attack these highs here. So, like I said, at the moment we're in that zone where anything can happen in my view. Looking at the technicals, there's nothing to say we can't go down, nothing to say we can't go up. But a couple of days ago, I was looking a bit biased to the downside. With this serious day, it touched down on that 56.50, bounced back up again. It closed a bit higher, and then another couple of bang, straight back up the next 3 days. So it is catching people. I think people are getting washed in and out of the market at the moment, which the market loves to do time and time again. And it could be that people are repositioning themselves. They may have got out. Anyone that may have missed a boat, if we just get out of this, missed a boat on this sort of push up, this is the time and the place. If you position yourself to go long, it could easily be that major high low. And the longer this takes and it holds up above there, the more confident I get that it could pop up through 58 and start attacking up towards 6,000. But the same token, this could easily be that lower high, and which takes, we get a decent correction like we got here. Probably this is a bit different in structure, but we got that push down, a pop up, good solid pop back up, made that major lower high that took out the highs. But I mean, that was just keeping with trend. Once it touched down at support, then we got that new leg higher. So we really haven't, this leg from 50.50 up towards 59.50, about 900 points, really hasn't corrected properly. Had a complex correction anyway. This is what we could be going through right now. So complex is not just a minor pullback and on we go. It's more lower highs, lower lows. I think we mentioned that before anyway. Does that make sense there, guys? Just what we're looking for? I mean, I probably wasn't specific of guess, but you want to be positioning yourself not in the chop. You want to take it when it's either going up out of the chop or down out of the chop. So either way, there's those zones that you just want to try to keep yourself out, or keep yourself. I mean, like I know Paul's got money on the sidelines, just waiting and ready and raring if this does have a deep correction to start jumping back in. But you've also got to be ready if it doesn't look like it's going to, you know, have a decent pullback, and we start. The longer this takes too, don't forget, this sort of choppy action, if it is going to go higher, it's probably going to get a bit of a move on too. So you don't want to miss the boat at the same token. You want to know what you're prepared for. If it does happen, what are you going to do and how are you going to attack it? Not just sort of sit there and wait around holding your hands. That's a nice way to say it. Anyway, we'll just get over to the other. I mean, this is the Dow, is it? Yep. No, it's the Dow. Industrials, yep, that's it. That's the Dow. That's making new highs. Made new highs again on Friday. So, you know, we've got markets that are just kicking on strong and we're just not going with it. I expect sooner or later we're probably going to have a bit of a push higher. Maybe that rebalancing at the moment through, we've got reporting coming up too. So it may just be going to reporting. After that, we might get a solid move. Or this might just be the period they're locking in around this zone here. On the ASX, that is, sorry. Locking in around this zone, just coming into the reporting. Where was it? Just here. So any questions on the ASX before we kick on? This is the S&P. This is the broader market, the 500 stocks rather than the Dow's, the top 30. So it gives a better overview of what's happening. But either way, they're both heading in the same direction, heading high. This didn't make a new high on, what was it, Friday? I think, but that's still, you know, we've got that complex correction, you know, lower highs, lower lows pushing down, washing a few players out, back to the MAs, and we start building again with those higher lows. Up she goes. After major complex correction there, we've got those, if you can see, sharp moving up, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, and then we just turned on a dime, pretty much headed up again, and had a good strong move up, complex, and up we go. So could still have quite a bit to move in this S&P 500. You just keep washing those people out, those players out again. See what's on the weekly. And that weekly looks good. The FTSE, you know, we've gone over this before. Still, the key levels down really is 7,100. I'm expecting this to be 73 to be that higher low, and it can easily make lower highs, lower lows, as long as it, like we have now. If you can see that little peak, let's just get. Is that clear? Actually, thicken that up. So you're looking at the S&P, like we said, that's contracted lower. Potentially that's your higher low at 73. We've pushed up. We could just make this a lower high, lower low, but it's all in context to this 73 mark. If we start holding another higher low, off we go. I think we're going to start attacking to new highs at 76 on the FTSE. And the DAX, again, it's a bit like the FTSE. Just what we spoke about then. You've got this contraction lower, but sort of key levels still for me is we're at 11, 12,000. We're not far off that at the moment. And you're looking at the weekly. You know, it's pushed above these all-time highs, just a touch below 13,000. You're going to expect a bit of contraction. It's had a good run up since about 10.2. So it's about 2,000. Am I right? Just on 2.5 to 3,000 points. Decent enough run in anyone's book. All right, is any major index you want to have a quick look at while we're here? We've got the Nikkei. See what Asia's doing. That's the Hang Seng. Yeah, that's on its way higher. It's just hovering around that overboard, that extended mark up the top. But again, no reason why it can't just keep grinding its way higher. Nikkei. Last few months, it's been hovering around those highs. And you can see what it did here. It sort of chopped around the highs back here. Had a washout, which flushed out some of these lows. Put a few people probably back on the sidelines. Then basically turned bang straight back up again into new highs. It could be doing the same. It may need a bit of a flush out down below and then turn around and head straight back up again. we'll see how that goes, and it's all going to be in context of the weekly trend higher anyway. So this is where people get those caught on those flushes out. They think they want to buy it up here. It doesn't do too much. Rather than keep your stop, I'd be assumed if you're going to do that, keep your stop tight, because you're just going to look, if it does flush you out, okay, you just reassess, jump back in again. But if it doesn't really matter. Does that make sense just on this structure? So that's about it. Now, what I'll do now, if there's no questions on the currencies, sorry, I'll go have a look at some currencies later, just while I'm waiting. What we'll do now, I'm just going to go over a couple that we've just got on the radar. XRO is not particularly one, but I think it's worth having a bit of a chat about that one. Not just because I might be winning the argument with Paul, but I like to toot my own horn. But it's got some good structure, and it's good to understand what's happening, or try to understand anyway what's happening from a technical point of view. Well, let's do that. So XRO, it is one we're looking at, and to be honest, I'm probably now. Was it zero limited? I don't know. I guess you say zero. XERO limited. So XRO. You can see the structure here is, for me, it's really, really nice. You've had that move up, and I think that's pretty much near. That's all the data, I'm assuming. Yeah, so that's everything there anyway. Let's get back to this little man. All right, so it's had that move up. It's had that big flush out, and then we found a little low here. It worked its way off that low, made that lower high. This is in context, and that was a major change in that downtrend. It changed, pushed up, made a lower high. We washed out these lows, only a little bit, you can see. Made a new low. Popped up, made a lower high. But then we started holding, these levels here, some higher lows. So if we just take that off, that's not very good either. Started holding some higher lows. So your level really was that key level at about $20. And this structure's nice, and it took the good part of a year to play out as well. So that's a long time where it's starting to base. It's holding those high lows. You can see traders are stepping in, stepping in, stepping in. All right, and this is on the weekly, don't forget. So it's a lot of time, and then sooner or later, people may have this on the cards, on the radar, and be looking at it, just waiting for something to happen, and that structure of what we've just seen. And then we've come into this high here, which is going to be a key level. If you manage to buy it in here off the daily chart, obviously, you've had a nice little run up. Your risk reward, it might have been a 3-to-1, potentially 4-to-1 risk reward trade there, off the daily chart anyway. And you've had that pop up in the resistance. Whether you've still got some running, that's great. If not, it doesn't matter, because you can reassess it. And it's popped up into a key level, and it got a bit extended. So there's a few reasons why, if you do take off all your positions, so be it. There's a few reasons why it's not such a bad idea. Expect a bit of reaction off here. If you're coming from an oversold criteria and you're pushing up into that zone, you expect a reaction, then you probably expect a sharp bang straight back up and through. Or what I always like to see is a push up through it. The market's extended, but it pushes through that zone. It's always a good little sign too that it's going to back off, build another base, and hold some highs, and then start pushing up again and really start attacking it with fresh buyers after it's washed out a few people as well. So that weekly chart, I really do like it. I think it looks nice. It's had a wash out of these lows. So a lot of people in this original move up are being put on the sidelines. There might be somebody still holding it, and what this structure is doing, not only put people on the sidelines, watching it again potentially, ready to jump in, it's also got it's come onto the radar of other people that may have looked after this, like myself, I guess, that have been waiting and watching closely to see what happens. So if we go to the daily, just remembering that this is that resistance zone at 20, was it around 26. And we pushed up, we've got that reaction of 26. What that people will be sitting there waiting somewhere around, it's 25, 50, 26, sort of zone in here. People who are sitting there waiting, especially after it's holding high lows, and it had a good strong run up. That's a solid run up from about 17 up to 25. Solid run up on the daily basis. High lows, higher highs, extended up into a major resistance zone. So they're sitting there thinking, okay, we're going to have a nice, decent correction, and then we'll look for a buy. It's not really doing that at the moment. This is what, it's actually quite nice price structure, and you see that that's just starting to break up and out of that contraction. I'm not saying it's going to kick on, but there's definitely a chance that this could just start taking off from here, because people, like I said, if you're looking to buy, it's reacted off that zone. You're expecting a deeper correction, potentially somewhere around $20. I don't know. Well, that will potentially put it around that zone, say 19 to 20. Around here, expect a retest of that breakout zone. But they're going to get caught, potentially get caught, and start to see this structure as just pushing up from here. So that could be just dragging. That's where you might get that accelerated move, what we love to see. We know exactly where our risk is going to be. Potentially, if you're looking to set up a buy, just say through 25, you've got your risk just below that 23.50. You're not taking a lot of risk for that. That's really, people start to have to chase that back up if they're expecting a decent pullback, because we're not getting it. Just touched up, react off 25.50, had a good little reaction off, but it's holding high lows. Not so much this. It's popped up, made a lower high here, contracted back low. Potentially that's going to be your other higher low at 23.50 in comparison to 23, and then it just starts lifting up from here. So you just got to be wary that this sort of structure, when it doesn't have that good pullback, it's a good sign of strength too, don't forget. When it doesn't pull back, people who are bought up, not willing to sell it, they think it's great. They're looking at maybe that long-term structure going, this could be a really good long-term mover to really blow through 26. Other people who are not in may expect a deeper correction, but that's a nice sign of strength. No one's getting out. Buyers are still stepping in here. Are happy to step in at that higher price. If they take a bit of heat, if it comes down, they might be happy to do that because they're looking longer term. And then that's where you get these moves. They start heading higher and they start accelerating because people are chasing it up that wanted to get in and wanted to get off that deeper correction. So that's my little spiel for that one. XRO, I think it looks good, and I think just as of today, really, we may be breaking up and out of contraction. It may just pop up to 25, had that little pullback, build another high low, and then go. And then I think you're going to get your entry if that's the case. But we'll see how that goes in the next few days. Okay. SIV will do. No worries, Kate. I'll look at that for you. SIV. And good luck with what you're doing today. Have a great day. All right. So the ones I just want to quickly go over that we've got on the cards. This is BNO. Look, it hasn't done too much, to be honest. We're not particularly putting it out as an alert. May have to look at it. If the volume can increase, great. But I think this is one that's got potential now. I just want to... You've got this structure which seems to be playing out now, and we could get this lead to another accelerated move high. But I think that if we do go from here, if that's the case, it's going to be that high low. I think it could go on a bit harder than that, purely because this one just took us up into that major resistance at 50. If we get through that, I think people are going to be chasing their tail and just really trying to chase that a bit higher. Look at that weekly structure. That looks good. Had moved down, had to try to pop up, push back down to support with lower highs. A bit of a washout here. If you can see, it washed out this previous high and then roll over. So once you get that washout, and people may have bought it just through here on that breakout, just chased it back down again as they got washed out again.Maybe people bought it through here, expected it to start accelerating higher. It got washed out with this move down. What we've done here is spent a lot of time, good part of close to a year actually, 8 months or so, 10 months. It's spent building this major high low, which is great. You got a double bottom here through about 31, and then we started pushing up. So we held this. This is a weekly, don't forget. Yep, weekly. We just held this high low in here. So if you put that in at what we're seeing, it may just back off from this high at 50, but it's always a good sign when it comes off a major high low, and it takes a fair bit of time to build it, which means that buyers are stepping in. There's been a lot of buying, just stepping in, soaking up the selling at a higher price, happy for that, and they may continue to position themselves for that move higher. They start buying on this pullback, on the next pullback, they're buying it, soaking up here. Where we are, we'll just have to wait and see, but off the daily, I think this one could be, for me, fairly clear cut if there's something could be on the cards. Just quickly, one more thing. Okay, on the weekly, you're just getting a bit of rise stochastics from that overbought up here. No worries, it could be coming back down and we might get that another pop which could really accelerate, blow through 50 and start taking you up towards 60 cents, which nice little return there. We'll see how that goes, but stochastics on the daily it's coming down to oversold. Last time it was oversold, it was way down 38. Now it's holding potentially. It's a lot of things lining up for that to be a high low. If we just start marking that up, you've got major support through here. That's your major weekly support. You've had this move down, double bottom, started holding higher lows. So we're looking for this push up and out. We've broken a key level through that 43. We're really just coming down to retest that breakout zone. Stochastics are getting to oversold. We may have a bit of a washout of 44 and then pop. What you'd be looking for is once it gets out of that contraction, not buying it off support, like sitting on the bid, buying with a limit order and just sitting there, just waiting to see the structure. So planning ahead, what I'd love to see, if we can just draw this out nicely with nice straight lines. So this is the move. You can just see that. That's a move down. Accelerated through the highs. We're just sort of coming down with lower highs, minor lower highs, lower lows. Maybe just sort of retesting that zone now. I'd want to see it pop up out of that contraction. And then ideally, I'd be looking for something, entry. I know where that is. I know I'm taking it on the rise. I think it's always important to take it when the market's pushing up, not coming down into support, because you never know where it's going to find support. But once you've got evidence that that is support, it's coming out of contraction, I think that's the best way to attack any trade. And vice versa on the downside, selling when you know that you're coming off a lower high, you confirm that it's starting to accelerate down again, or you're waiting for that acceleration. Stochastics in a good zone, but this is definitely one, and especially that's just touched up on that 50. Bit of heat coming out of the market. If it holds a high low, a lot of people are going to see this as the next move that's going to smash it up through 50 cents. But we'll see. We'll see. Now, what was the other one? Any questions just on that? Just on the technicals we looked at? Make sure everyone can actually hear me, hey? So all good? Now get ready to put in some stock codes soon. I've only got a couple more I just want to quickly look at. Now this one, this is Steadfast Group, SDF, for anyone that's looking at it. If we go to the weekly, when that weekly's in an uptrend, you can see that it's consolidated, chopped through here, started acceleration, higher, excuse me, through the highs. That's around 170, no, probably 180, 180. This high here, when it chopped around, it couldn't take out the high here, had a bit of a pullback, then accelerated up and through that previous high just in here. And that's all the data too. So spent a lot of time doing nothing really through here. 2014 and 15, only mid 2016 or early 2016, it busted up through that highs. And then you can see it started trending high. We've had that good pullback down to 2, found some buys. This is the weekly. Go down to the daily. Was that 2? Yep, here we go. So that's your 2 zone. Held some high lows and started accelerating up and through. Probably a bit of a tough, I know the MAs are down there, but there's always a time when the structure's still the same. You just got to sort of interpret that structure, that price action, to see what's happening for your entries anyway. This one, just to go over entry-wise, I do like this entry. You can see, we've got these highs through here. This could be a bit like what we just mentioned. And what did we just mention? B&O. No worries, Philip, I'll whack that one up soon. SYR. B&O, we've got that busted up out of contraction, and it's contracting off those highs. Like B&O, just touched up the highs, contracting off, so we're looking for an entry. For me, it didn't quite, you could have taken it through that high there, but it's not quite what I like, so I'm not 100% confident. It's more through here, so it's sort of washed out this low. That's your little anchor, that acceleration up into the resistance. Then it contracted low, but it was still holding above that anchor. Tiny little washout, probably a few cents, and led to a high. I'm not that keen on that, because that sort of structure could just blow out, retest, and then bang, straight down again. This is more what I like to see. You can see It's moved down, pop up, little move down, and then took out that minor low, minor high, high low just here, taking it through there, which would have been, you know, just under 250, even 250, bought it at 250. You've got the break up out of this major resistance through 240, 42 on this move up. Then that is beautiful, and you know exactly where your risk is going to be. Well, you potentially got not even a 10-cent risk, I think. And then you're into new highs, so it's sort of everyone's a winner from there. As Dave would say, everyone's a winner. So when you get up into new highs, there's no resistance zones to come up into. So you're just looking for those stages when buys are an easing out of the market. That ended up really well. I know you potentially given up a bit of profit not getting in here and risking that was going to go on with it without you. But that's the nature of trading. That's an ideal entry for me. That's beautiful because everything lined up at that stage. Looked great. That move up, bit of a pullback, you know, it's held a lower high potentially, so through here you might have just taken some off the table, booked some gains, and just thought I'll lock in down here. If it goes through this low at 270, I'll give it a good old chance. It hasn't worked out. Put my stop below there, lock in the rest of the gains if you took a partial as well, or just took everything off just below there because you got your lower high and you know that you don't know where it's going to go to from there. And then what you've got, that contraction lower. So we're really just looking for a stage where it's going to push up and out of contraction. If I just take all this off, clean it, actually just clean it right up to here. So this could be just in the makings of pulling back. I hoped that it was pushing up from this move lower. This is only minor lower highs, lower lows, and it busted up. I was hoping that we're going to start holding above, say, 255. But just this price action, you can see the MA is starting to roll over, it looks like. And these last couple of days, not today as such, but the 2 days prior to that were quite heavy selling. It just opened, it gapped down on the open and held around that zone. But for me, it's not conducive. A buyer's been happy to step in. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But if that can, it's pushed down into there, it's sort of popped up, push back down. If we can just hold and just contract a bit, and that's going to give anyone that's willing to buy, it's just get a bit more evidence playing out. When you hold a minor high low, you get those aggressive traders happy to step in there. Potentially not me. I want to see that high attacked at least, which is 270. But this one has got the potential to just roll over, bust through 255, and down we go. So really, to plan this out, if I think this is a good zone to buy, potentially you've got that high low, if you can see. It's in a prime zone. I've got to plan out what I want to see first. And if I don't see it, I don't want to trade it. It's as simple as that. And that's like here. You planned out something, and once you got this sort of push through those lows, maybe that's made me second guess, and I have to replan, reassess the price action. And then we got that push up, and then this entry turned out beautiful. Okay, this is a lot more solid, that sort of style. So really, if you don't get what you see, there's no reason why stepping away, reassessing, keep it on the radar. Because until this breaks down through here, then I think this could be a complex correction. We don't know where we're going to from here. But I still want to have confirmation that we're holding some higher lows and then popping up through 270 and away we go. So I thought that's a nice little one just to say that what we've got on the cards and, you know, what you're planning out. You're always having a plan of attack. And the last one I just want to quickly jump onto is Gem. We've had this one previously, I think. We've traded this one in the past. Let's just look at the weekly. That's probably not everything, but if we just go to, that's everything. You can see that monthly, that looks quite nice. You know, nice strong move up. A lot of people coming out of the market with this move down. There's even a massive washout here. If we just get back to best fit, it's probably looking a bit better. Of those lows after a move out, so that's great. So you've had quite a few things starting to line up there. So that moved down. You started holding a base here, and you can see these little lower highs. Then it worked off a higher low here, had this move up, then capitulated, but it really didn't do too much apart from wash out that support zone. So that's essentially your double bottom. I know that it's always, I don't mind if you see a double bottom, great, and it starts holding a high low, then great. If you see that washout, that's just extra evidence because we just popped back up to that resistance around that 425. So for me, this hasn't played out just yet, especially on the weekly. But it's consolidating. It's holding those highs. It's holding above 3. So I would really love to see, planning ahead again. We're in a good little zone here where we've sold down. We're potentially still holding this trend higher. Your key minor levels on GEM. I'm getting better at this process, hopefully. Your key minor levels, you got a little minor, you got an inside high low here. Potentially we're just looking at holding around that 370 zone, the 375, holding a high low. It's a good area on the daily. Remember the weekly may roll over a bit more, so if it goes through there, great. We'll just leave it and watch. But if it starts holding and pops up through 380, then I think this one could be a nice aggressive trade, maybe a push up through that 383. And then you're targeting at least 4, potentially up to the highs at 420, and you've got a good risk-reward trade on your hands. But I think it's still got to do a bit more work at the moment. But yeah, this one's definitely another one that could be on the cards, and we're just keeping an eye on that at the moment. But we're just planning out what we want to see. So any questions, guys, before we get on to the other guys? We've got SIV and SYR, so anything else, just put into the chat there. Oh, I finished my coffee. All right, what do we got? SIV. Okay, you've done good. When you listen to this later, I'm just quickly looking at that. That's Silver Chef. I haven't looked at this for quite a while, but that's a lot like XRO. It's slightly obviously different, but you can see it's had a good run up from the lows at 7 up to 8, so the 875 up towards 9. But it's holding that high low. It looks like, especially after you get this acceleration, it's sort of rejected. That's buyers stepping in. Maybe at the end of the day, maybe earlier on, but look, that looks really, really nice. We'll just go to the weekly just to confirm. Look at that. Up, pullback, held the lows, popped up. Similar type of price action here is what we could be seeing here. This is on the weekly. But if you look at that, it's held that high low, didn't really pull back much, and then popped up, new high, high low, got a bit choppy, probably harder to trade it through here, and you had these solid sell-offs back to the MA, so it didn't really take its time getting back to the MAs. It pretty much reversion of the mean was quite solid, and then pop up into new highs, and we've had this big pullback, probably like what we saw here, and that's got really nice signs that that's starting to hold. Down to the daily, the only thing for me on the weekly, it's a bit extended just up here, so just looking at that, it may take, it could just hold there, and it may take a bit of time before the weekly starts having a bit of a pullback, but it can hold that level. There's no reason why it can't just, maybe longer term like this. So it may have a fair few weeks just to play out, but I think definitely that price structure is really showing signs to keep an eye on it. Definitely keeping your MAs up. This could be a bit of a reversion mean, pulling back to the MAs on the daily. It's in a good zone on the stochastics too. Everything's starting to line up, broke a level through that 625, 630, this high. All right. Retested the low, popped up, retested the low here, broke through that level, consolidating those highs, holding those highs, so it's looking like it could accelerate up and through 8, what's the highs just here? 888. So that's a nice one, Kay. Definitely, I haven't seen a setup for me from what I like to see, but there's a lot of pluses in that. I don't see too many negatives apart from that weekly chart, but that weekly could be up here for a while, can just sort of stay choppy like that around overbought, and look, it can just appreciate. Price could just kick off. So it's more important on the daily. All right, any questions on those ones, guys? I know you got nothing, Kay, to answer. That's a bit of a dad joke, that. Philip, SYR. Ooh, right up until today, that was looking very similar. And I had this one on play too. So that's the beauty. You're looking at these. This is why, I can't say enough. Planning stuff out and prepping your market, what you want to see. And it doesn't take long. It's a simple matter of maybe cut and pasting that, drawing all over it, drawing all your lines like we do with this, and then sticking it in a folder of something you want to look at. Just so you go, okay, what was it that I wanted to see? So this is the way I would attack it anyway. I tend to, just drawing up. I draw. All right, so we've got a high through here. These are your key levels. All right, double bottom here. It started pushing up. It's held that high lows. Okay, off the high low. So it could be just pulling back to the high low. No reason why. I mean, it actually doesn't. Now that I've drawn that up, it looks a bit better. So I know. All right, my key levels, and then just start pushing away. That's a good swing high. See the high lows, and it's a good way to identify it too, by the way. Higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, and it's dropped over. So that's obviously key target 365 thereabouts. So if we can work a trade, we know potentially at levels that it's going to come into a bit of resistance, or it's going to get a reaction. The next one I'd say is a minor one here, but I don't see that as a key level. You can see this, it's chopping off little minor high lows, high highs, and then it rolled over. Same what we got here. So it's more of a stronger level, if that makes sense there, Philip. So what I'd do is just mark that up. That's what I want to see. And then probably your last one really is that little contraction line there. So okay, I've drawn my picture. If I just change colors, and I might just mark up what I want to see. Prior to today, I might have thought, okay, if that can hold up there, what I ideally want to see is that pop up. And then if it pops up, say touches 320, I know that's starting to go up out of contraction. So it's all a matter of the entry. Just waiting to see if we can get that entry. And then I know exactly where my risk is. It's going to be below this blue line, just below 3. And just forget I'm talking about prior to today. So that way I've got this saved. If this takes a while to play out, I can always go back and think, oh, what did I draw up on SYR? What was my plan of attack? Go bring up the chart, look at it and go, okay, anything changed? No, hasn't changed. Still waiting. Or, yeah, okay, something's changed. And then maybe just remark it up again and just do a new chart. But it's always a good habit to get into. So you know what levels, you know where you're going to. If it just blows through 365, if I happen to get long, blows through, okay, let's just maybe ride it up a bit more, try to get a partial a bit higher. Or if it starts reacting, getting a bit choppy around 360, I might want to take a partial. All these sorts of things you've got planned out already. Does that make sense? So if we just, if we're planning this out today, the way it looks to me, I might just draw it up quickly. I just need a space to draw it up. We'll just draw it here. So that's my support up here. I still want to draw that in because it's still showing me that it's contracting. It may contract low. So what I'm really waiting to see is if it's just going to contract. So that's pretty much touching down here. Then it started working its way up, up to the highs, just up here. Then it's just getting a bit choppy, here. But it's working its way down, and maybe we're up to about this stage, 290. I might think it's just going, if we just draw that in a different color. So what I expect from here is maybe it's heading down to that support. So I want to see what happens down around that 280 zone. If it starts holding up and we get these little minor, if I can draw that up a bit better, a little minor, it's not going to happen, high low, and I think about that stone, it's going to do something. I think we've contracted enough. It's come to a point. We've come to basically a point of agreement between the buyers and sellers, and someone's going to start winning out. And that's what I want to see from here. It breaks up. We get that break up out of the contraction. You can see contraction low, break up, and then really it's just a matter of the entry, potentially taking it up through there. You know where your risk is and away you go. Does that make sense there, Philip? Or does that make sense to everyone, I guess? I think it's a good habit if you're a technical chartist or if you're trying to learn. It's a good habit to get into this and just mark it up. And what you can always do is mark it up, and even if you're not going to trade it, just go through the process of marking a few up, saving it, put down something you expect to happen, plan it out of what you think, and then you can always refer to it later on, just as a bit of a practice. Refer to it, check it out, where you're right, where you're wrong, what played out, and then you'll slowly build up I guess your experience is one thing, and also you'll start getting used to it. And if it doesn't play out, then you start go, okay, that's because of this, that's because of that. It didn't play out because this happened. Then you start. It just helps you. It helps you refine your trading. It helps you refine your entries, keep yourself out of trouble. But I mean, if you're say around this 310, you're adamant, okay, it's going to hold up. We've got a support line through here prior to today again. I'll just buy it, just 305 it was trading now. I don't want to miss out. And then bang, today it's down at 290. Doesn't mean that if you hold it long enough that you can't make a profitable trade, but there's nothing saying this is going up yet. And if you just sat on the bid there, Like I know a lot of people do that. They think, oh, that's support. I'll buy it just above support. That's a good way to trade. For me, it's not. There's no confirmation that you're right yet. Whereas if you wait till it breaks up out of contraction, you definitely got confirmation that something's happening. And then you definite confirmation that you potentially got it right. It's a much higher probability trade. And if you have to get up a few cents, who cares? You're always going to get this bloke who maybe bought it there, took a bit of heat, say, look, I got a better price, I bought it lower than you, that's great. But what he won't tell you is the ones that headed south from there. You know, he bought it here, headed south, he got stopped out for a massive loss. They'll never tell you those trades. So I guess what I'm saying, just don't listen. All right, does that make sense? I hope that's helping a bit. Is there anything else you want to quickly look at? I know I was going to just go over a couple of currencies. So let me just see if I can just get that up. What is this? This is the Aussie. I might as well just start off with this one. Try and down my coffee before it gets too cold. It's 5. I don't really want the 5-minute chart. That the 30-minute chart is looking quite impressive. I mean, it's getting a bit choppy around here. You can see it popped up, washed out the lows, washed out the highs. So it's starting to chop either side of the market. I think they do that a lot. I mean, the market can do it quite a bit. Just chop them out either side of the market just to get people back on the sidelines and then start building. And then you start getting some clearer patterns, some clearer pictures of what could be happening anyway. Clearer trades, but that's a bit choppy, that zone there. But if you just go back to that longer term price action, looking great. Go to the daily. We've been biased up on this one for a while. And that daily to me looks great. I just see a lot of potential for it. This to start really accelerating. We've got the next high up towards that 81.67. We're currently 79.71. About 200 pips away, roughly. So there's another 200 pips potentially up to the next reaction zone where we do expect a bit of reaction on the Aussie. Or it could just fall over from here. I mean, we don't know, but there's potentially, if you get a nice setup on the lower time frame chart, there's potential, there's some good fat in this trade. And then, you know, this major basing, don't forget this double bottom from here to here. Let me just see, I've got a measuring tool. I want to try it. Oh, that's useless. It doesn't say. Anyway. What is it? Good part of May, June 2016 till December. Good part of 6 months. It's spent before it based off that that 71.68. So yeah, it's done a lot of works and it's held a lot of time to hold this high low. Sorry, at 73.34. So this could easily get on, move on and just blow through. You could blow through that high at 81, and then you really don't have a lot of resistance from there. And then your next major one's way up at 94. So just keep an eye on this Aussie. It could really kick on strong. I thought I just wanted to point that out. And again, this is one of those trades we look at for who's biased which way, shorts or longs, and this was definitely biased on the short side. There's a lot of retail punters out there just getting cleaned up at the moment, which is unfortunate, but that's the nature of the beast. That's trading. I mean, I don't know if it's still biased to the downside. Let me just see if I can find out. I think it probably is, actually. More than likely, people, and this is where people start revenge trading, doing the wrong thing. It's coming in line a bit. I think it was around 75 to 80% on the short side. Actually, it's still 69%, so it's about 70-30 bias short. So there's still some short positions that could easily get squeezed out, and this market just rocket higher. Yeah, really put the pressure on them. Oh, no, I think it's the same. Yeah, so there you go. There's some serious room to move on that. I don't know if you want to look at another currency, but anything else you want to quickly look at on the way of stocks? XRO still kicking on. BRN's another one we're looking at. That's just had a crappy day today. Not so good. But that's, it's in a half decent zone here. This is BRM brain chip, so just keep an eye on that one, guys. We've marked it up on the alerts. It's potentially in a good zone to build that high-low. Touch down through this support around 10, held the high-low around 15, major high-low around 15, but it's only going to be confirmed when it pushes up through 21, which is this high. If you can push up through that 21 zone, then great. That's confirmed your major high-low, and I think it's on and up from here. All right, if there's nothing else to look at, what we'll do is might just call it quits there. Slightly shorter than normal, but anyway. Thanks very much for joining us, guys. We'll be back in on Thursday at 12:30, so just be ready. If there's any topics you want to have a bit of a talk about, feel free to send us an email. support@tradesetup.com.au. If there's anything in particular, especially with technical analysis, in your trading in that respect, if there's anything you're struggling with or you just want a clarification, I'll try my best. Never know I'm going to be right or wrong, but what we can do is have that as a bit of a topic of a conversation for the first 20 minutes or so, and then we'll get into looking at the stocks. But yeah, anything at all, just feel free to, if you've got some questions you didn't understand in previous streams, again, just send us through some emails. Type up the question, I'll get back to you, and just keep it in private too if you like. Anyway, thanks for joining us, guys. It'd be great. I'll speak to you again on Thursday. Cheers, guys. Bye.